Good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, July 30th, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news.
Watch as we bring you these and other stories from the LGBTQ headlines. Jeff Bezos' ex MacKenzie Scott donates $1.7 billion to LGBTQ, gender, and racial equality. And U.S. lawmakers accuse big tech of crushing rivals to boost profits.
Trump wants to delay the 2020 election, and Herman Cain dies from COVID-19, likely picked up at the Trump Tulsa rally.
Right-wing terrorism is the biggest threat to the U.S. and Europe, replacing jihadist plots. And tonight, after Queer News Tonight, on Gay Town Hall, it's Thursday at 8 p.m., a diverse cast of members of the LGBTQ community bring a focus to the gun epidemic facing America and what it means for our LGBTQ community. So good evening again, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, July 30th, 2020. It is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and also out of the headlines. So many of your stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. We are live and unedited. This is an unedited show, so anything can happen. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, David Hopkins. And for the first time ever, our special co-guest anchor from Sunshine Cathedral, the Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins. So let's queer up the news. Tonight we bring you the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is diverse, and the LGBTQ community around the world is vast. And so we bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Thursday, July 30th, 2020. We begin by queering up the USA in reporting Herman Cain, a former Republican presidential candidate, dies from COVID-19, likely picked up at Trump Tulsa rally. Watch this.
Former 2012 Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain hospitalized for coronavirus. Just 12 days after attending the president's mask-optional Tulsa rally, Cain himself tweeting out this selfie of him sitting shoulder to shoulder with Trump supporters with no face coverings. No confirmation, however, where or when he caught the deadly virus.
We are sad to pass along this news to you. Herman Cain, frequent guest, favorite guest on this program, he's passed away. Herman was a presidential candidate in 2012. He ran Godfather's Pizza and was a member of the board of the directors of the Kansas City Fed. Herman recently contracted the coronavirus and had been battling it for several weeks.
Former Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain has died just 1 month after being hospitalized for coronavirus. Cain, who was 74, tested positive for COVID-19 11 days after Trump's ill-fated Tulsa rally in late June. Based on social media posts and a photo of the rally, Cain and those around him did not wear masks. He had also made public comments lauding Trump's decisions to ignore and disregard mask mandates, a decision that very well may have led directly to his own death.
You know, I'm going to go biblical. You reap what you sow. You know, these people who are encouraging the populace to go out without masks and not protect themselves because they want to politicize this virus and say it's a hoax are now seeing it come home to them. And I don't think anyone deserves death, but hopefully this wakes people up.
You may think that it's being faithful or courageous or politically strategic or whatever, but it's just silly. Just wear the mask. Wash your hands, wear the mask. This isn't complicated. Just wear the mask.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't help but wonder, and I posted this when I heard the news of this, will this be the moment that turns those people that think the entire COVID-19 crisis is a hoax? Will it finally turn their direction?
Next week, we're up the USA. Jeff Bezos' ex, MacKenzie Scott, donates $1.7 billion to LGBTQ, gender, and racial equality. Watch this.
Well, MacKenzie Bezos is planning to donate half of her fortune to charity. She finalized her divorce from Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos last month and received an estimated $37 billion in Amazon stock in the split. Well, this morning, Bezos announced that she would be signing the Giving Pledge. In a statement, she said that we each come by the gifts we have to offer by an infinite series of influences and lucky breaks we can never fully understand. In addition to whatever assets life has nurtured in me, I have a disproportionate amount of money to share. Bezos is now one of 204 billionaires to sign the pledge worldwide.
Earlier this week, Jeff Bezos' ex, MacKenzie Scott, donated hundreds of millions of dollars as part of her commitment to the Giving Pledge, in which many of the world's wealthiest promised to donate large portions of their wealth. Scott and Bezos were married from 1993 to 2019, and when they divorced last year, her divorce settlement made her the third wealthiest woman in the world, with a net worth of $64.5 billion. Some of Scott's contributions were granted to LGBTQ groups, such as the National Center for Lesbian Rights, Lambda Legal, and the Point Foundation. Many other recipients are organizations focused on racial equality, public health, and global development.
You know, I'm always glad when people have a lot to share, and they do. When they have a lot to share and they share a lot, that's laudable. I commend her for her generosity.
One of the things that jumps out of the headlines to me on this story is if she's worth $64 billion, I understand that the tithing percentage is around 10%, so she's got about $5 billion more to donate.
Well, and as I said in that report, she plans on donating half of it. And honestly, I can live very happily off $32 billion and would not be bothered a bit.
Queer up religion. More defiant pastors linked to COVID-19 outbreaks as virus ravages churches nationwide. Watch this.
There's that biblically, God does not want us wearing masks. Masks are a symbol also of hiding yourself, of doing bad deeds, inappropriate deeds, or malicious things that you need to hide from. And it is also a symbol of stripping us of our unique identity, because we're wearing a mask. We're not unique anymore. We're all the same. And God doesn't see us that way. He sees us as He created all unique individuals. He also sees us as being good, and anyone who is doing good deeds should not be living and hiding in the shadows behind a mask.
Pastors and the anti-LGBTQ Liberty Council have been pushing for legal showdowns over the religious right to refuse a mask. The defiant pastors and their congregations are still gathering in large numbers, refusing masks, and ignoring the science in the name of religious freedom. Some even posit that masks are an unrighteous means of hiding yourself for shameful acts, and that those who believe in God's protection will be immune to the coronavirus. Contrary to these claims, this week alone, 60 people from 3 churches have tested positive, and the numbers continue to climb.
Well, I'm going to leave the religious observations to Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins. But the one thing that jumps out of her comments related to masks, with God creating the heavens and the earth and everything else, He probably can see my face whether I have a mask on or not.
Yeah, and the whole concept that people don't look different when they're wearing masks. Your mouth is not the only part of your face. You have hair. The whole thing's just a stupid argument.
That sort of BS is what turns a lot of people off of religion. Religion should be bringing us together and giving us empowerment and giving us hope and giving us rituals for various times in life. It shouldn't be telling us not to do things that will save our neighbor's life.
Yeah. We continuing queering up Vote 2020 and reporting that Trump wants to delay, what? He wants to delay the 2020 election? Watch this.
Now, we know you may feel like you hear and see a lot of crazy in the news, but this morning, the president, the sitting elected U.S. president, President Trump, has openly floated an idea that has never happened in this country's history. That is delaying the presidential election, when, of course, his own term is up to your vote. It didn't happen during the Civil War, didn't happen during World War II or World War I. In a tweet this morning, he wrote, with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. By the way, he makes that on no factual basis. He makes that charge. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote.
Moving the election date due to concerns he has over mail-in ballots. In this nation's history, that has never happened before. It would take an act of Congress. So I have to ask you, is that something you would ever consider?
Well, never in the history of the country, through wars, depressions, and the Civil War, have we ever not had a federally scheduled election on time. And we'll find a way to do that again this November 3rd.
So just to be clear, you are saying November 3rd set in stone?
That's right. We'll cope with whatever the situation is and have the election on November 3rd as already scheduled.
On the same day that reports have come out about a staggering loss of annualized of a third of the nation's GDP, Trump has somehow made it all about him yet again. In a tweet that has not a shred of constitutional backing, he floated the idea of possibly delaying the entire election due to the possibility that mail-in ballots could rig the election against him, while touting that absentee voting was okay, despite them being virtually the same thing. Republicans in Congress were quick to distance themselves from this idea, with even staunch Trump ally Senator Lindsey Graham as quoted as saying, "I don't think that's a particularly good idea." A mild but clear rebuke of the president.
And to state that our president's insane is an understatement. So I'm just going to say Florida early voting starts this coming Monday. Go vote.
He doesn't mean that. I don't know anything about him, but I know he doesn't mean that because he can't mean that. That's not how it works. But he is really good at distractions. He really is good at saying ridiculous things so that we'll talk about the ridiculous thing so that more troubling, pressing things that could happen are ignored and can get by us. So yes, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but that's why he said it.
Yes, and I completely agree with that observation. And so, therefore, let's move him back from the distraction. Today, it was reported that 1 out of every 3 small businesses in America no longer exist. 1/3 of the American economy is now gone in the last quarter. That's what he's trying to deflect from LGBTQ America.
Next week, Queer Up Business. U.S. lawmakers accuse big tech of crushing rivals to boost profits. Watch this.
The chief executives of America's largest tech firms, Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook, faced harsh criticism on Wednesday from lawmakers who accused them of abusing their market dominance.
Simply put, they have too much power.
Most Republicans concentrated on claims their platforms censor right-wing voices.
Big tech's out to get conservatives.
But both sides of the aisle appeared to agree that the 4 tech titans engaged in unfair business practices to squash competitors.
How many competitors did Facebook end up copying?
Google and Facebook took particularly sharp jabs for alleged abuse of their market power from Democrats and Republicans on Wednesday in a much anticipated congressional hearing that put 4 of America's most prominent tech CEOs in the hot seat. Facebook Incorporated's Mark Zuckerberg, Amazon.com's Jeff Bezos, Google owner Alphabet's Sundar Pichai, and Apple's Tim Cook, whose companies have a combined market value of about $5 trillion, parried a range of accusations that they crippled smaller rivals in their quest for market share. The video conference hearing was the first time the 4 CEOs have appeared together before lawmakers.
Well, what I've learned in the last 4 years is that the largest, most powerful, and super wealthiest people in the world always have the best interests of others at heart.
That is an interesting observation. And also, for someone who is not tech savvy, I realize that I might as well surrender to my overlords now.
As someone who is tech savvy, the whole hearing was quite ridiculous. Several of the Republican people obviously don't understand tech, so we're coming up with these conspiracy theories, and that ended up distracting from the actual reasonable complaints that the Democrats are trying to bring up.
Next up, Queer Up Religion. Pope Francis accused of following the homosexual agenda of the New World Order by prominent archbishop. Pope Francis has been denounced by a vocal archbishop who believes that the Vatican is openly and unconditionally following the New World Order's homosexual agenda. The Archbishop, Carlo Maria Vigano, called the Pope and his close advisors mercenary infidels who seek to scatter the flock and hand the sheep over to be devoured by ravenous wolves. Vigano, who formerly served as the U.S. ambassador to the Vatican, called the acceptance of homosexuality unfaithful to Catholic teaching.
Well, we queer up entertainment in reporting tonight that Crema is a gorgeous lesbian graphic novel that has people excited. From the New York Times best-selling author Johnny Christmas comes a new graphic novel featuring a cafe, a ghost, and a lesbian love affair. Crema is a romance for the modern age. Half ghost story, half love story, the graphic novel tells the tale of Esme and Yara, best friends who find a mysterious letter in the basement of Yara's coffee shop. The story tangles and moves through Brazil, bringing up unrequited love, the bitter smell of coffee beans, and of course, a lesbian kiss. Both Johnny Christmas and illustrator Dante Luiz pride themselves in bringing untold and unrepresented stories to the public through their work. Someone has to send a copy to our Chef Josie.
Next week, Queer Up Health. 6 in 10 Americans wrongly believe that HIV can be spread through casual contact, survey says. In a survey of 2,500 Americans for the inaugural State of HIV Stigma study, founded by pharmaceutical giant Gilead Sciences, found that 6 in 10 Americans wrongly believe that HIV can be spread through casual contact. 45% of participants expressed that they would feel uncomfortable with an HIV-positive barber or hairstylist. In each situation polled, LGBTQ people expressed less discomfort than non-LGBTQ people. But thankfully, despite the problematic ignorance of those polled, 90% of all participants believe that promoting prevention through HIV education in schools should be a national priority.
Queer Up the World. Right-wing terrorism is the biggest threat to U.S. and Europe, replacing jihadist plots. In the U.S. and the UK, the fear of terrorism no longer implies an outside attack. Instead, government security officials are growing wary of domestic right-wing groups. These conservative organizations are feeling threatened by COVID-19's effects on the global economy. Financial and socioeconomic stressors, along with the accelerated spread of disinformation on social media, are creating a dangerous environment in which extremist right-wing ideas are easily disseminated.
Next, we queer up gay culture in reporting Beyond He and She. 1 in 4 LGBTQ youths use non-binary pronouns. The Trevor Project found that 1 in 4 LGBTQ teens and young adults prefer pronouns other than the standard of he, him, or she, her. 4% of the respondents specifically chose neopronouns. The big win for non-binary visibility is that younger generations are expressing acceptance toward non-standard combinations of pronouns to a much broader degree than any of our past generations. The Trevor Project report emphasized that presenting your preferred pronouns, regardless of gender identity, helps to normalize the practice, making our culture a little more accepting for non-binary and transgendered people.
Next week, Queer Up the World. Russian Foreign Ministry made formal complaints to U.S., UK, and Canadian embassies for flying the pride flag. Russia's infamous gay propaganda law bans any positive depiction of LGBTQ people. Anyone found guilty of sharing such information with minors can be sentenced to heavy fines or up to 15 years in prison. A diplomatic source has said that the UK embassy in Moscow had received a protest note from the Russian Foreign Ministry for displaying the LGBTQ pride flag, which it raised towards the end of June. State lawmaker Vasily Piskarev confirmed that protest notes had also been sent to the Canadian and U.S. embassies in Moscow, which also displayed rainbow LGBTQ pride flags. It appears Russia is growing more and more bold in their attempts to seize power around the world.
Next, let's catch up on the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment called Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBTQ community. We first report on coronavirus case numbers. Based on the standard acceptance of 7% of population of the LGBTQ community, the world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at a staggering 1,212,889, while in America, LGBT's COVID-19 cases stand at 321,813. We remind you that America continues to be ground zero of the pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, and today America is 26.5% of all of the world's cases. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 47,097, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 10,812. The USA is 22.9% of all of the world's deaths.
Mandates mask wearing in House chamber following Representative Gohmert's blunder. Watch this.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to redirect your attention to antitrust law rather than fringe conspiracy theories. Mr. Bezos, our investigation...
Mr. Chairman, we have the email. There is no fringe...
Excuse me, it's not your time. Mr. Jordan, you do not have the time. Please be respectful of your colleague. She controls the time. Put your mask on. Put your mask on.
Mr. Jordan. Mr. Raskin.
Mr. Jordan.
You want to talk about masks.
Mr. Jordan, Ms. Scanlon.
Why would the Deputy Secretary of Treasury unmask Michael Flynn's name, Mr. Raskin? And what I want to know is, when someone comes after my motives for asking questions, I get a chance to respond.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi mandated the wearing of face masks in the U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday, hours after Republican Representative Louis Gohmert announced he tested positive for COVID-19. Gohmert has frequently forgone wearing a mask on Capitol Hill in recent days. Quote, members and staff will be required to wear masks in the halls of the House, Pelosi said during remarks she made on the House floor. She explained that members and staffers will not be allowed in the House chamber if they refuse to obey the new mandate. Gohmert's positive test has forced other House members to self-quarantine.
Well, I'm glad to know that the Speaker of the House is at least one adult in the room.
Absolutely. And we do Q's Q&A on coronavirus every Tuesday night, and we've done it for 20 consecutive weeks. The number one recommendation from every medical expert we've had is to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And this, I'm sorry, idiot has now come back to show it became a political statement to not wear a mask, and the results of his political statement was to contract COVID-19.
Yeah, and, I find the videos, and that video didn't have to do with Speaker Pelosi's statement, but happened after her statement when one of the people at the tech giant hearing refused to put their mask on, and they're fighting like children over it.
More quarantine quickies. Touch surfaces found not to be a major cause of COVID-19. Watch this.
How it works. You take a swab, dip it in the solution, and basically swab any surface that you want to test. We're doing this playground steering wheel. Just snap the top of the swab off in the sample tube, and you're done.
I swabbed all over New York City, in busy public spaces like the subway, coffee shops, and the grocery store.
All right, we're going to see what's on this cart handle.
The seatbelts, pin pad, and door handles in a taxi.
Taxi door handle.
And inside an Uber.
Not pretty, but we got to check.
Even inside a public restroom.
Another good spot, the elevator.
And what about these high-touch items at a restaurant? I wasn't alone. We enlisted NBC News producers from coast to coast, swabbing surfaces in 5 states, including hotspots California and Florida. 48 hours after shipping our samples to the lab, we got the results. All our swabs from Pennsylvania and New Jersey came back negative for coronavirus. No traces of the virus on the train, at the drugstore, or on the mail we swabbed. Not even the chair in the pharmacy waiting area. No positives in California either, where the producer swabbed a gas pump, bus seat handle, and this elevator button in an office building. But in New York, 2 positive hits. This grocery cart handle came back positive for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. And this self-serve bread bin, also positive. But the worst was COVID-19 hotspot Florida. Nearly 20% of our samples from Miami positive.
It's this inside the elevator.
Overall, 6% of the samples that we took indoors came back positive, which is within the 5 to 20% positive rate predicted by the company.
The CDC has released guidance and statistics showing that COVID-19 does not spread easily from touch surfaces. Although it is possible to contract the virus from touching your face after contact with a contaminated surface, the odds are low. COVID-19, like other respiratory diseases, needs only a few copies of the virus for direct lung transmission. But touching a surface would require far more copies of the virus to cause an infection through this causal chain. According to the CDC, while surface contact is not the main way the virus spreads, it is still important to maintain a consistent hand washing routine.
This is excellent news, to be honest with you. Information is power. And one of the things that is interesting in this report is I don't think we have to freak out about the touch surfaces. Remember, at the beginning of COVID, we were worried about delivery of cardboard from UPS. Now, we don't have to be worried about that. And when you combine this information with social distance, wear your mask, and use hand sanitizer, you are highly affected and safe from COVID-19.
The report of the New York supermarket hit home for me because our Publix supermarkets here locally require every cart and basket be sanitized before our customers are allowed to use it. So apparently the markets up there aren't doing the same thing.
And COVID notwithstanding, I still remember my mother's sage advice: wash your damn hands.
Yes. And by the way, Reverend, at Queer News Tonight, when we do Q&A, Dr. Grossman has phrased it as wear your fucking mask. Next week, we're up our segment, Good News. Now, I'm not going to go to hell for that, am I?
I don't think so.
No, okay. Next week, we're up our segment called Good News. After we finish our headlines, we want to report on something that makes us smile today in Good News.
Queer Up Good News. Stolen Build-A-Bear with voice of dead mother is returned. In the wholesome content that we need during this rough year, we're very glad to report that a teddy bear which contains a voice recording of a woman's dead mother, which had previously been stolen, has returned to her safe and sound. And that's good news. Watch this.
Mama Bear's home.
It's the reunion everyone was rooting for. Yesterday, we told you about Mara Soriano and her irreplaceable teddy bear that plays a recording of her late mother's voice.
A part of me will always be with you forever. I love you to infinity and beyond.
The bear was stolen last weekend by a thief who was caught on camera taking Mara's backpack as she was moving into a new apartment. So how did Mara get it back? She says 2 guys reached out to her via email and said they recognized the thief. A few hours later, Mara met the Good Samaritans at a safe spot and the teddy bear was back in her hands.
My knees just buckled and I started crying.
Today, Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds, who offered a $5,000 reward for the teddy bear's return, tweeted, "Thank you everyone who searched high and low. To the person who took the bear, thanks for keeping it safe. Welcome home, teddy bear."
Mama Bear's home.
It's an excellent story. This evening, we bring you an impactful photo essay titled 8 Powerful Photos from Around the World, which symbolize the strife that we are currently facing in the LGBTQ community, the losses we have incurred, and the fabric of humanity, and its lasting effect on our community as a whole. We give special thanks to Getty Images and Associated Press and their gifted photographers for providing these impactful images. This is truly a beautiful look into the heart of what makes all of us human. Watch this photo essay.
Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight presents 8 Powerful Photos from America. Noah Berger took this photo of hundreds of Black Lives Matter protesters in Portland, Oregon, July 20th. Yuki Awamura took this photo of NYPD officers detaining a protester who defaced the Black Lives Matter mural outside of Trump Tower in New York City, July 18th. Elijah Nuvalage took this photo of people paying their respects at a mural of Representative John Lewis in Atlanta, July 18th. Carlos Osorio took this photo of an American tour boat passing a Canadian vessel at Niagara Falls, Canada, July 21st. Spencer Platt took this photo of large crowds visiting the beach at Coney Island, New York, July 19th. Rob Carr took this photo of Dr. Anthony Fauci throwing the ceremonial first pitch at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., July 23rd. STR presented this photo of a Chinese mission to Mars lifting off from the Wenchang Space Launch Center in Hainan Province in southern China, July 23rd. Gary Hirshhorn took this photo of a bolt of lightning hitting the Hudson River in front of Lower Manhattan and One World Trade Center in New York City, July 22nd. Tonight, we are broadcasting from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center. The museum is in Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
We joke we're coming from the gayest place on earth.
Better. We'd like to thank our set designer also, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this living museum possible. Well, we end tonight's broadcast with the Big Finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish. Madonna is a COVID-19 conspiracy theorist who believes Trump's quack doctor.
She is living in a hydroxychloroquine world, and she is now a Trump girl. You know it.
Well, I just hope she doesn't wind up on La Isla Enferma.
Oh my gosh. You come to Queer News and you sing too? Jesus, Misty. All right.
Weren't you the one in the chorus?
Twice I had invited front row seats at Madonna. Twice. One time she was 3 hours late. The other 4. I already know she's crazy, but personally, I've known Madonna lost her mind the moment she thought she could sing American Pie well. The Big Finish. That was funny. Mars gets a helicopter.
Get to the chopper!
Leonardo da Vinci would be so proud.
Right? Just one step closer to our eventual retreat off of Earth after Robo-Trump scorches the planet. And by the way, I want to be married on Mars and then buried on Mars. The Big Finish. A hotel in Australia's outback bans rowdy emus for bad behavior. This is true.
I hope they don't have Liberty Mutual, or else how can Limu Emu take care of them?
I don't care how rowdy they get as long as they wear their masks.
First, Misty, who is watching, I know how excited you are to learn how many times I've been to Australia. Barrier Reef and the big ones. Ask me later. I've cuddled a koala in Sydney, in Melbourne, and the fairy penguins. David, what do you think I'm talking about?
I'm thinking the country went to the birds.
And of course, the Outback. Did you know the Aussies call the Outback the Red Center? I wonder what they're talking about. I feel like Australia is the world's version of Florida as far as headlines go. The Big Finish. Domino's, we're in a South Pacific theme tonight. Domino's in New Zealand dropped a promotion where a woman called Karen got a free pizza after an angry backlash.
So let me explain the headline. Domino's made fun of Karens by giving nice people named Karens pizza. And the internet went all Karen because the Karens weren't Karens.
And that's the new version of the domino effect.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that. Points for try. This news is almost as disappointing as the last time I ate a Domino's pizza, but not quite.
Don't let Aaron Dar hear you say that.
The Big Finish. Happy National Interns Day. Oh my gosh, we're getting ready to go inappropriate.
Well, you know, as with this picture I found, porn has given me a very unreasonable expectation of interns. That being said, maybe we should have a few here on set. Oh wait, this table from Concepto Modern Living is glass.
Meanwhile, guess what I do for a living? Interns,
I'm the sinner, he's the saint.
Interns, you work for free, and all you got was this unknown holiday.
Yes, exactly. I admit I always try to be very prepared and professional for this show, so I used the Google machine to search for interns, and I thought, on average, they would wear much more clothes than that. Also, it's amazing what interns will do for little or no money. No money exchanged at all. See, David? I didn't have to pay for it after all.
And hint audience, he's actually wearing pants instead of shorts for tonight's broadcast.
The big finish. New COVID-19 cases. We're getting booed by production.
By production.
The big finish. New COVID-19 cases in Florida will drop to 0 this week as testing sites close in preparation for the hurricane.
Oh, we'll have the best case numbers in the country. Ron DeSantis must be pleased as punch.
Tests may be down this week, but I hope that votes soar in November.
I'm going to say it. Trump is right. No testing, no coronavirus. Mm-hmm. There are dozens of Trumps and Governor DeSantis's out there that are in ignorance, and we've got lots of jokes. They're all playing in my head. We already know, however, in seriousness, they're lying, manipulating, bypassing the CDC, and worse. Alternatively, if the hurricane ramps up and just kills everyone in Florida, no one is going to die from COVID-19 in Florida ever again. Yay, Republican optimism!
And on that note, that's today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Queer News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are out of the closet and into the headlines, and this is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world. Your community needs your support.
You are not alone. You'll get through this crisis, especially with the help of Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday broadcast.
We are here with you, and this is Queer News Tonight.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of the Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, you did a great job, and David Hopkins, we'll see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night.